Hi, this is John St.Clair, and I'm in the office of Dr. Kavatus Newell at the University of Mary Washington College of Graduate and Professional Studies. And Kavatus, I'd like to ask you about methods that you're aware of for differentiating instruction for students of varying cultural backgrounds.
Well, when we talk about differentiating instructions for students, we encourage our students here at College, Graduate, and Professional Studies to think about culturally responsive teaching, which is keeping in mind the student's cultural fund of knowledge, their prior experience, and how their culture plays a part in their learning. So we want our students to think of ways in which they can incorporate that into the classroom, such as making the environment inviting for students, having different, the environment print labeled in different languages and dialects for students, encouraging students to bring in artifacts and relevant symbols from their cultures into the classroom, having a wealth of multicultural literature in the classroom so that students can see themselves reflected in the literature and in the curriculum. So culturally responsive teaching is very important, and I try and encourage my students here at CGPS to think of ways in which they can differentiate the instruction, keeping the student's culture in mind.
Well, let me ask you this question. In talking about differentiating instruction, in Northern Virginia, in this area, we have a wealth of cultures here, and I anticipate that in many classrooms there are many cultures. How can we be culturally responsive to so many different groups? Do we try and do this in a special occasion, or do we integrate it throughout the curriculum? How should we manage that?
Right. It is important for us to integrate it throughout the curriculum. Now, that being said, there's only so much that we can do as teachers to transform the curriculum, but it is our responsibility to integrate it throughout the curriculum. We don't want to just add on something for students. For example, just give them a book to read, an additional book to read. We want to make sure that we are doing really significant things to invite all the cultures into the classroom. Obviously, we live in a very diverse area here in Northern Virginia, and the task is monumental for teachers, but it doesn't excuse them from doing that.
And, you know, teachers ourselves, we come from our own cultural background. How can we become aware of these cultures of our students?
Very good. We have to, we do need to become aware. First of all, it requires some self-reflection on the part of the teacher. There is several inventories and questionnaires that teachers can begin so that they can get aware of their own biases and prejudice and sort of tap into that. The other thing is that they need to become aware of the student's culture, and that may require doing some research. It may require talking to community leaders that come from that background. It may require home visits at times so that you can become aware of the different cultures. We're not all experts in one particular culture, but for us to really teach to our students, we do need to be aware of the culture and the backgrounds that they bring into our classrooms.
And of course, here at the College of Graduate and Professional Studies, our adult students would come from many cultures also. I'm wondering, you know, I understand and I accept the responsibility for making an effort to be culturally responsive as an instructor, as an educator. Is there any responsibility on the students to let us know as teachers, to inform us and help us understand them?
I think that there is a responsibility, but it first comes with an invitation. The students must feel open. They must feel like their values, their beliefs, their way of learning are valued in the classroom, and I think that comes with the teacher's initiation and showing that, first of all, there's a genuine care out there to invite parents in. Parental involvement is critical for this to be successful for students, to get a very good understanding of the students' background and their home culture so that we can bridge the school with their home culture. So yes, I think there is a responsibility on the part of the students, but the first initiation must come from the teacher. It is the teacher's responsibility first and foremost.
So part of being culturally responsive is indeed not the response to a stimulus, but the making ourselves open and available and inviting to the students so that they'll be comfortable approaching us with their other cultures.
Absolutely, and that begins on day one. It begins with how you set up your classroom. If your classroom is inviting, if students feel like their language, their values, their beliefs are all valued and thought of in the classroom, that begins very early on in the classroom so that students can begin to feel comfortable with the teacher and begin to open up to the teacher.
When I first started this series of office chats, I started talking with Mukesh Srivastava, and we were talking about social constructivism. And in preparing and reading about culturally responsive teaching, I was putting two and two together here, tying those ideas together. I'm thinking possibly that in a way, being culturally responsive in our teaching is a way in which we can scaffold our instruction to make the instruction, to make the learning in that zone of proximal development that Vygotsky said is where the student needs a little help to get from how they can learn something on their own to how they can learn it in a social environment. Is that, am I going in the right direction? Is being culturally responsive a way to scaffold our instruction?
I think scaffolding is important, and it is a way to scaffold our instruction, but I would say more importantly, it's a way to differentiate our instruction for our students. It is providing different opportunities for students to learn. It's providing information in various ways, in various outlets, so that all of our students have access to learning in our classrooms. So I would think it's more differentiating the instruction for students. But scaffolding definitely plays a part in it.
And one final question. As we're recording this today, this, of course, is the day after an historic election in the United States where Barack Obama is now the first African-American president-elect at this time. Part of being culturally responsive is, in my understanding, correct me here if I'm wrong, but is being aware of the cultural background of our students. Has this election of an African-American president-elect in some way broadened the cultural horizon for African-American students?
I think it has. I definitely think it has. We live in we have an opportunity now to tell all of our students that they can be anything that they want without any limitations at all, and they can actually see that now. I have encouraged my students here at CGPS throughout this entire election to talk to their students about the significance of this, not just having the first African American president, because prior to last night we did not know that, but the whole idea of having a female as our first vice president had the Republican ticket won the election. So yes, anyone can be anything given the opportunities here, and so it's a wonderful time. Absolutely, it's a great time for teachers. Lots of teaching moments going on here in history.
Dr. Newell, thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.